Welcome all. You're listening to the MLTI podcast, Teaching with Tech.
We are your hosts, the MLTI Ambassador Team at the Maine Department of Education.
We are here to support Maine educators by building a network focused on authentic voices, experiences, and technology integration.
Hello and welcome to the MLTI podcast, Teaching with Tech. My name is Joshua Schmidt from the MLTI Ambassador Team, and I am very excited for the opportunity to showcase the new MLTI Virtual Student Conference, which is now designed as a virtual board game called the Maine Winter Classic. This episode will talk about the structure of the game, the spirit behind the design of the game, along with some tips and tricks to help schools and teachers make the virtual conference as valuable as possible. The MLTI Student Conference has a rich history of creating valuable learning experiences for students all over Maine. And like many events, the COVID-19 pandemic forced an immediate and drastic shift. Starting in May of 2020, the event turned virtual, using innovative strategies to keep the spirit of the conference alive while continuing to provide high-quality and engaging learning experiences for students. Even as the in-person MLTI Student Conference returned, the success of the virtual conference made it indispensable. However, as the virtual conference has grown, it's also evolved. This year, the MLTI and Learning Through Technology teams here at the Maine Department of Education are excited to announce something new. Rather than asynchronous virtual sessions, the conference will be a virtual board game called the MLTI Winter Classic. Instead of sessions that classrooms join all at once, groups of students will progress through the board game, completing activities, earning prizes, and learning new skills at their own pace rather than having to adhere to a strict schedule. And while we are extremely excited for you all to play the game along with us, we know there will be questions along the way. Our goal is to provide increased flexibility, but the same level of support we always have. That's why you will find plenty of webinars, guides, instructions, and access to in-person support, both on the DOE site, linked in the show notes, but also packaged with the game as well. This episode will examine some top-level tips and tricks, while also talking about the things we are most excited about to see on March 7th. We will hear from the entire MLTI Ambassador team, along with the coordinator of the Learning Through Technology team, Emma Banks. If you wanted more information about the MLTI Winter Classic, register your classroom or school for the event, or watch asynchronous content showing more details about the board game itself, reach out to us at doe-ltt@maine.gov or by going to the website linked in the show notes.
So I'm very excited because the students all over Maine will have the opportunity to use their own skills and technology to solve the problems. And also at the same time, they can learn more about Maine.
I think students have this opportunity to solve all kinds of interesting problems as they're playing the game, and I'd love to see how they collaborate with each other to figure out how to deal with things they haven't encountered before, whether that's websites or programs or activities, and then helping one another to complete each task feels to me like such a neat way to value and honor their collaboration with each other, and then to jump into a new challenge as soon as that one has been conquered or completed.
I'm excited about how the energy of the classroom, it will hopefully make people find some new ways to do things that they never thought about, or perhaps for those people that are a little more not into some of the tech things, they'll be like, oh, this is fun. So the creativity and the sparks of interest that it's going to drive is exciting to me.
Teachers who don't teach computer science or don't teach this type of material to see its excitement and power and maybe possibly learn how to use it in their classroom.
I'm really looking forward to all the artifacts that kids will be creating and submitting for the scholarship.
I am most excited about seeing how the game looks differently in every school, in every classroom. One of the benefits of having this new model is that it can fit to whatever your school system is. So I'm excited to see what models come out of this, what works best, and see what changes we can make in the future to make it work even better.
This is an amazing resource of activities that teachers can use anytime beyond the virtual game, and it will be great for advisory or team building times, in class transitions, for extended or differentiated learning. It's just so much more than a one-day conference game.
I'm excited for the teachers that teach Maine studies units. In our school, we do that in 4th and 8th grade, and the amount of resources, whether it's geography or history or economics, there's so much in this game to help teachers who to teach those subjects. And I'm also excited to see the looks on the kids' faces. This has a lot of wow factor to it, so I think they're going to be pretty amazed.
And we are back to talk more about the MLTI Winter Classic. You heard from the MLTI Ambassador Team, and they will be back later in this episode, along with an interview from one of the lead designers of the board game as well. But we thought this would be a good time to talk about both where the virtual conference has come from, but also where it's hoping to go next. So we are here with Emma Banks. First off, Emma, welcome to the podcast. Could you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Emma Banks. I'm the coordinator of Learning Through Technology here at the Department of Education, and that involves many things, but certainly encompasses MLTI and the MLTI Virtual Student Conference, as well as our in-person conference, which is happening in May.
Could you give us a little history on the Virtual Student Conference? Why did it start in the first place, and why has it been such a valuable event that you wanted to hold on to?
So the virtual student conference originated as a result of the pandemic. We were planning the in-person event, which had primarily been the way the student conference had run prior to 2020. And then with the onset of the pandemic, we knew we had to either cancel or make a pretty strong shift and take things virtual. And so we decided to go virtual versus cancel, which was definitely the right decision to make. And I'd say that the virtual student conference has gone through some growing pains over the past year, but has largely been very successful in connecting students from across the state, many students who would not have been able to go to the in-person event. So really opening those doors for folks who want to participate, but who are too far away to travel to our in-person event. And it's been very valuable in many different ways. I would say, primarily it's that connecting folks from across the state who wouldn't have been able to participate in the in-person. And as we've gone over the past few years, we've really started to hone in on the design and how we've done things. But as we emerged from this past year, we really started to notice that it seemed time to make a shift and change some things up and really focus on that student engagement. So primarily, in the past, the conference had been done through synchronous virtual sessions. So students in a classroom would all join a session and engage in learning. And we really want to make it more engaging for our students and introduce a game-based element.
As with anything on our team, we're always looking at opportunities to evolve and grow. But what was your vision for the changes to the virtual conference? What benefits were you hoping to maximize? Or even some potential activities you were really hoping to see students able to do during the event?
Yeah, so I'd say the change is twofold. One is really to increase flexibility for our teachers who are facilitating this day. So whether they have an hour, 2 hours, half a day, or a full day, we have designed the virtual student conference this year to be able to accommodate whatever their time needs are. We really have made this an asynchronous event that can be started and ended whenever. And our hope is that students are going to be really excited. We have a virtual game that they're going to play. So for the day, they'll basically be playing this really fun and engaging learning-based game. Some of the activities are unplugged, and so they don't involve being in front of a screen all day, which was something else that we've really tried to work towards in the past, is very screen-based. And so our goal here is to shake that up a little bit. Talking vision, I would love to see our students across the state excited and engaged and out of their seats and working together and collaborating with one another and, trying to complete the challenges and trying to submit their work for scholarship and all of those different kinds of things. So really, like, if I was to hone in on one thing that I'm hopeful will be different is that increase in engagement and excitement from the students themselves.
I know you had mentioned as we were building activities that the goal was to keep them short and flexible as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that also will help with, the cognitive load of our students. I think, we've increased the number of activities, but also shortened the length of them. So we're not asking that they sit on a webinar for an hour and a half and be engaged in that. We've now shrunk the activities so that they can complete more activities in whatever time they have, so that hopefully that cognitive load barrier won't be as strong as what it has been in past years.
It sounds like differentiation was an important factor that you really wanted to emphasize this year.
Yes, exactly. Differentiation was definitely a focal point for this year's conference for sure.
What were some other major focuses as the game was being developed? Are there any benefits of this new style that you're specifically looking forward to during the event?
We've worked really hard this year to try to make this event feel as if you're part of something bigger, which has always been a goal of the virtual student conference, but I think we've really tried to reinvigorate that this year. And so I think one of the biggest benefits is help students feel as though they're a part of that bigger thing. I use the example of the old jump rope for heart. Some folks are familiar with it, some folks aren't, but the whole school would engage in this really fun and engaging activity. It was semi-competition based, but really, at the center of it, it was all of us working together to do something for the greater good. I want the essence of that to, if our event is successful, that will be, I think, a measure there is to see, do students feel as though they're a part of something else? Are they connecting with other classrooms? Are they connecting across their school? How are they getting excited about it? And I think that to me is my biggest goal for the conference, is to really help that community aspect of at least within a school, even if schools aren't going, cross school or cross district, but even within their own school, that hopefully there'll be multiple classrooms participating, and that, they're at lunch that day talking, well, what did you do in so-and-so's class? And what did you do today? And, really wanting to engage with each other over that kind of thing. I think that would be the best case scenario.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining us. I know how excited the entire team is as we get closer to March 7th, but I really appreciated you giving us some time to talk about your vision for the event and why you feel like the virtual conference is so valuable. So once again, thank you for your time, and we will definitely talk more soon.
Thanks, everyone.
So one tip that I would give to play the game is that before the day of the event, I would just make sure your kids have had the opportunity to experience the Tabletopia side of the game before they have the activities mixed in. So taking 10 to 15 minutes to let them just play around in the app and see what the board is like, see what happens when they push a bunch of buttons and all those things can make the actual day of the event run smoothly, and also get the kids really excited to use the program for the day of.
One of the most important things I think you can do to have a successful day is to make sure that you restart your computers. Students and teachers need to do a really restart, not just a shutdown restart, so that it works as well as possible and you have a good, clean, fresh environment as if it were just starting. And don't do it the night before. I would do it just shortly before you begin your game.
It's important to look at the space you're in, because not all of this game is on a screen, and there's going to be need in your classroom or wherever you are, you're going to need room for the kids to move. So make sure you're in a space where that can happen, and or move desks and chairs so that you have some space.
Make sure you have all the help numbers and the links available to you so that you can get help. We are going to be ready, willing, and able to give you some help on that day. And so reach out.
Troubleshooting with my local district, a piece of advice I got from our technical coordinator is to add the Tabletopia domain to what they call the global allow list, as opposed to just allowing it for specific schools. It seemed to make the difference in whether or not schools within the district could access the game.
The game can be played without the Tabletopia, so it's please make sure you've checked how that works so that if something fails or the game fails, you don't have to change your whole day. You can still play this game.
The way the game is set up is intended to have gameplay be consistently moving forward. So after each team has gone once, whichever team has now completed their task should continue on, even if that goes out of order. And gameplay doesn't need to pause at any point so that the action is just continual over the course of the whole day.
So for teachers, just don't worry about trying to learn every detail of the game, like all the apps, all the tutorials, like everything ahead of time. This is meant to be a creative and collaborative learning experience for students. So if a particular activity doesn't work out, it's okay. Just move on to the next one and have fun.
This is a great opportunity to work together and to solve problems. If you see the activity may be too hard for you, and on the next slide, there are different levels. You can choose maybe the right level. If it is still not the right level or not the right activity for you, you can move on to the next one. So the purpose is to learn and at the same time to have fun.
I am here with Chris Beckwith from the MLTI Ambassador Team, who is normally one of the hosts on this podcast. We'll have to hear if it feels a little different for Chris not being in the host chair today. But we still wanted to bring him in because he has been one of our lead designers on the Tabletopia virtual board game, which will be headlining the MLTI Virtual Student Conference.
Thank you, Josh. I can be awkward regardless of my role on the podcast, so I am looking forward to today's topic in particular. Thank you for having me here. I guess once the secret was out that I was a gamer and have been for many years, I was a natural pick to dig into this aspect of our project. Tabletopia versus other platforms and other options that we had really presented itself as a clean, visually appealing platform with a very simple interface. And most importantly, it was going to be easy to figure out, easy to assemble in the time frame that we had. It didn't involve hours of tutorials and webinars. And the more I looked at it, the more it seemed to offer us all of the mechanics that we wanted to have in our game, including customizing game pieces, which was a huge selling point.
I've been lucky enough to see behind the scenes of what the customization looked like, so I know just how cool it's been. Can you tell the audience how you created the game pieces that they will be seeing in the board game?
So normally, Tabletopia has some pre-built game pieces that you can use, but you have the option of importing custom designed pieces. And these are 3D models that you could have downloaded someplace, or in our case, I made them using 3D modeling programs. I tinker around in Tinkercad, made some Maine themed models for our game. And originally they were designed because we thought these would be 3D printed and sent out with a physical copy of the game. And that evolved into the digital format. And so when we realized that we could keep these models as part of our game and import them, that was super exciting. So I designed some of them in Tinkercad. I designed some of them actually in virtual reality using a program called Gravity Sketch on a Quest 3 headset, and took all these models and cleaned them up. They had to be reduced from their complexity in order to import them in the game. That was a big challenge, to make them small enough so the game could handle them. And then imported these 11 Maine-themed models into our game for use as playing pieces and reward trinkets.
And Chris wants everybody to flip over their bean boot trinket because the treads at the bottom are as highly detailed as you think they are. And it was very, very impressive how all of these were done. I'm very excited for everybody to be able to see them and potentially 3D print them in their own classrooms. Now, something the team was very cognizant of was how much screen time kids would have on the day of a virtual event. what are some ways that the game is designed to balance out screen time with some time away from the screen?
That's very important. From the beginning, this game was designed to have tech activities that would require the students to be on a device, but also some unplugged activities that would force them to go away from their screens. And even in its most original iteration, the game had an element that we've preserved that is get away from your screens and get up and be physically active. And that's our section we call the Frosty Fitness Zone. And that's going to get the kids up where they randomly choose a winter activity. They randomly choose a limitation that they'll have to suffer. And then one student acts out the activity while suffering the limitation, and the rest of the class will demonstrate an expression, a reaction to that, which will also be selected at random. And if the teacher gets these antics on video, they're going to be able to submit them to our Frosty Fitness Gallery, and hopefully we can put together quite an entertaining montage of these.
So is this game designed to be a one-day event, or is it possible for teachers and students to continue experiencing the Maine Winter Classic after March 7th?
That's another fantastic aspect of this game. As Tracy mentioned, one of the bonuses here is that beyond the virtual conference, this is going to be something that students can come back to later. Teachers can use this anytime they want later on their own. But even better than that, in my opinion, is once they've been exposed to this platform, students and teachers are going to be able to use this to create their own games, whether it's to review content that they've learned in class or to demonstrate understanding. And it is very simple. The free version gives them a lot of power to create their own games. I think as a class project, there's huge potential for this. And even individual students and teachers could put together something that would be usable for the whole class and very valuable.
One of the things that I'm most excited about is that as we looked at this new setup, we wanted the virtual conference to be flexible and look a little different in every school and every classroom. We worked hard to create support for the day of the event, but it's so much more important about what works best for teachers and their students. So as we look forward to March 7th, what parts are you most excited about to see in action?
I think seeing how it has all come together and knowing how hard everybody worked as a team. I know on my end what I've done and the labor involved there, but I also know that the entire team has put an amazing amount of work into the different elements here, whether it is creating the activities involved or actually there's been so much work from the entire team, and just seeing that all come together exactly how we envisioned in this format, and then just getting better each time. It's like as it comes together, it's like, well, we didn't plan on this, but this is even better. Everyone is going to be able to look at this and say, I worked on that part, I did that part, and it's such a perfect example of a team effort, collaboration. I am excited that it's cool to see my models in there in a digital form that kids are going to be able to grab and manipulate and move around and collect. That's such a cool evolution from what they were going to be. And schools will be able to get these links so that they can actually 3D print their own as well. But seeing them digitally in the game where they can be manipulated is particularly exciting for me.
On behalf of the entire team, Chris, we want to thank you. We all know exactly how much work you've put into this and how you have responded to needs for change and evolution over time. I think it's something that you should be incredibly proud of as a final product.
My pride here is I'm proud to be part of the team that put this together, and it would not exist without everybody's efforts. So I just have really I've been so impressed with the abilities of everybody on the team, all doing their part to bring this concept to reality.
Thank you to everyone who joined me in today's episode. And once again, the virtual conference will be on March 7th, and the in-person conference will be on May 23rd. If you wanted to participate in either conference, there is still time, so please see the website in the show notes or email us at doe-ltt@maine.gov. Join us in March on this podcast for a recap of the event to hear how it goes. On a personal note, I am very excited for you all to see the MLTI Winter Classic in action. This is a massive culmination of hard work from each and every member of this team, and I think we should all be so proud of the final product. We also wanted to give a quick reminder about our brand new mobile-friendly archive of every episode of Teaching with Tech. It will be included in the show notes, and it does have every episode of the podcast, including our 1-year celebration from last month. And to close the show, I was planning on telling a fun winter-themed pun, maybe something about ice, but I do have to admit it slipped my mind. Class dismissed.